You have seen it everywhere, the before and afters on social media, the celebrity weight loss, the waiting list at every clinic, and you have either already tried a GLP-1 medication, you are on one right now, or you are wondering if it is the answer you have been looking for. Today, I am going to give you the most honest conversation about GLP-1s that you have probably ever heard. What they actually do, what they do not do, what happens when you stop, and what needs to be in place for them to actually work the way you are hoping they will. Here's what I know after coaching women through GLP-1 protocols and going through my own menopause journey with eyes wide open. GLP-1 medications are not a scam. They are real, powerful clinical tools with meaningful research behind them. But the way they are being marketed to women, and particularly to menopausal women, is leaving out the most important parts of the story. Women are starting these medications with enormous hope and incomplete information. And when the results do not match the expectation, or when the weight comes back after stopping, or when the muscle loss and fatigue set in and nobody warned them, they feel failed by something they were told would finally be the answer. That experience is not inevitable, but avoiding it requires understanding what GLP-1s actually are and what they are not. That understanding requires education. And getting the most out of any clinical tool, especially one as powerful as a GLP-1, requires coaching that personalizes your approach and community that supports you through the full journey. That is what MenoFabulous is built around. And today, I am giving you the full picture. I am Elizabeth Seegers, registered nurse and certified health coach. I lost 60 pounds in menopause. I have coached women through GLP-1 protocols, and I have watched what happens when the protocol is supported correctly and what happens when it is not. Today, I am going to give you everything you need to make an informed decision about GLP-1s and to get the best possible outcome if they are right for you. Before we go any further, I want to be clear about something. Everything I share here is for educational purposes. Peptides and GLP-1 medications are powerful clinical tools, and they are not one size fits all. What I share is based on my own personal experience and the women I coach, always under physician supervision and with labs to guide every decision. Please do not start any peptide or GLP-1 protocol without working with a qualified healthcare provider who knows your full picture. That is not a legal disclaimer. That is me genuinely caring about your safety. Number 1, understand what GLP-1s actually are and how they work. GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. And yes, it is a peptide. It is a naturally occurring signaling compound that your gut produces in response to food. It does several things simultaneously. It signals your pancreas to release insulin in response to rising blood sugar. It slows gastric emptying, the rate at which food moves out of your stomach, which is a large part of why you feel full faster and stay full longer. It signals your brain, specifically the hypothalamus, that you have eaten and that appetite should be suppressed. And it reduces glucagon secretion, which helps keep blood sugar from rising too high after meals. Semaglutide, the active compound in Ozempic and Wegovy, and tirzepatide, the active compound in Mounjaro and Zepbound, are synthetic versions or analogs of this naturally occurring peptide. They are designed to activate the same receptors as your body's own GLP-1, but with a longer half-life, so the effects last for days rather than minutes. The result is reduced appetite, improved blood sugar regulation, slower gastric emptying, and for many women, significant weight loss. That is real. That is evidence-based. And for women in menopause dealing with insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction, it addresses a genuine biological problem. Number 2, understand retatrutide, the next generation that goes further than anything before it. Most people have heard of semaglutide and tirzepatide. Very few have heard of retatrutide yet, but they will. And I want you to hear it here first with the clinical context that makes it actually useful. Retatrutide is a triple agonist, meaning it activates not one receptor like semaglutide, but 3 simultaneously. It hits the GLP-1 receptor for appetite suppression and blood sugar regulation. It hits the GIP receptor, glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide, which enhances insulin secretion, improves fat metabolism, and works synergistically with GLP-1 receptor activation in ways that produce greater weight loss than GLP-1s alone. And it hits the glucagon receptor, which is where retatrutide goes further than tirzepatide, which only hits GLP-1 and GIP. Glucagon receptor activation increases energy expenditure, drives fat mobilization from the liver and adipose tissue, and produces metabolic effects that neither GLP-1 nor GIP activation alone can replicate. results that exceed both semaglutide and tirzepatide. In some trials, participants lost over 20% of their body weight. For menopausal women dealing with the combination of insulin resistance, visceral fat accumulation, and the metabolic slowdown that declining estrogen and growth hormone produce, retatrutide's triple mechanism addresses more of the underlying biology than any single or dual agonist can. It is currently in late-stage clinical trials and not yet broadly available, but it's coming. And understanding what it is and how it works now means you will be able to have an informed conversation with your provider about whether it's appropriate for you when access comes up. Everything I'm about to tell you about what GLP-1s do not do and what needs to be in place around them applies equally and urgently to retatrutide, because the more powerful the appetite suppression and the more significant the weight loss, the more critical the protein, the resistance training, and the lifestyle foundation become. Number 3, understand what GLP-1s do not do and why that matters in menopause specifically. Here is the part nobody tells you. GLP-1 medications suppress appetite. They do not selectively remove fat. When your body is in a significant caloric deficit, which is what appetite suppression creates, it loses both fat and muscle. And in menopause, where muscle loss is already accelerated and where muscle is your primary metabolic engine, losing muscle alongside fat is a serious problem. Studies on GLP-1 medications show that without a deliberate high-protein diet and consistent resistance training, a significant portion of the weight lost on these medications comes from muscle mass. Women who lose 15 or 20 pounds on a GLP-1 and do not prioritize protein and lifting are often losing 5 to 7 of those pounds from muscle. That is not a win. That is a metabolic setback that will make maintaining the weight loss harder once the medication stops or even while still on it. GLP-1s also do not address the root hormonal drivers of menopausal weight gain in isolation. They address appetite and blood sugar. They do not rebuild progesterone-driven sleep. They do not regulate cortisol. They do not address gut microbiome shifts. They are one powerful tool in a complex picture, not the whole picture. Number 4, understand the B12 and magnesium connection to GLP-1 therapy. This is one of the most clinically important and most overlooked pieces of GLP-1 management for menopausal women. Because GLP-1 medications slow gastric emptying and significantly reduce food intake, women on these medications are at a meaningful risk of B12 deficiency. B12 is critical for neurological function, energy metabolism, mood stability, and red blood cell production. Deficiency develops slowly, and the symptoms, fatigue, brain fog, tingling in the extremities, mood changes, are easily attributed to menopause rather than to a correctable nutritional gap. If you are on a GLP-1 medication, B12 monitoring and often supplementation is not optional. It is a standard of care that is frequently skipped. Magnesium deficiency is similarly common in women on GLP-1s due to reduced food intake and the demands that blood sugar regulation places on magnesium stores. Magnesium glycinate at 300 to 400 milligrams daily supports sleep, reduces the anxiety and muscle cramping that some women experience on GLP-1s, and helps regulate the insulin and cortisol dynamics that GLP-1 therapy is working to improve. Number 5, understand the protein and resistance training requirement. I am going to be direct about this because it is that important. If you are on a GLP-1 medication and you are not eating at least 100 grams of protein per day and doing resistance training at least twice a week, you are not getting the best version of your results, and you may be creating a metabolic problem that will follow you after you stop. The appetite suppression from GLP-1s make it genuinely hard to hit your protein target because you simply don't feel hungry. But hunger and need are two different things. Your body needs protein to protect muscle, regardless of whether your appetite is asking for it. 30 grams of protein at every meal, even when you are not hungry, is non-negotiable on a GLP-1 protocol. High-quality protein shakes, Greek yogurt, eggs, cottage cheese, these are practical, high-protein options for women whose appetite is suppressed. And resistance training, 2 to 3 times per week, sends the signal to your body to preserve the muscle it has rather than metabolizing it for fuel. Protein and lifting are not accessories to GLP-1 therapy in menopause. They are requirements. And exactly this, is what we talk about inside the Menofabulous community every single day. Women on GLP-1 protocols sharing what is working, asking questions about protein and muscle and supplements, getting coaching support that makes the medication work the way it is supposed to. If you are not in there yet, the link is below. Come find us. And let me keep going because we still have the most important pieces to cover. Number 6, understand omega-3s and vitamin D as GLP-1 companions. Systemic inflammation is one of the factors that blunts the effectiveness of GLP-1 therapy and contributes to the side effects, nausea, fatigue, GI disturbance, that lead many women to reduce their dose or stop the medication entirely. Omega-3 fatty acids are 1 to 2 grams of combined EPA and DHA daily are the powerful anti-inflammatory interventions available, and they work synergistically with GLP-1 medications to improve insulin sensitivity, reduce cardiovascular inflammation, and support the metabolic improvements that GLP-1 therapy is designed to produce. Vitamin D3 deficiency, which is extraordinarily common in menopausal women, impairs insulin sensitivity, immune function, mood regulation, and muscle function. All of these are directly relevant to GLP-1 outcomes. Getting your vitamin D level tested and supplementing appropriately, typically 2,000 to 5,000 IU of D3 with 100 to 200 micrograms of K2 daily, is a baseline intervention that makes everything else, including GLP-1 therapy, work better. Number 7, understand what happens when you stop and how to prepare for it. This is the conversation that most prescribers are not having with their patients, and it is the one that leads to the most heartbreak. GLP-1 medications work while you are on them. When you stop, the appetite suppression ends, the gastric emptying returns to normal. And if the lifestyle foundation, the protein, the resistance training, the blood sugar stabilizing nutrition, the sleep, the stress management has not been built during the time on the medication, the weight returns. Studies show that the majority of weight lost on GLP-1 medications is regained within 1 to 2 years of stopping without sustained lifestyle changes. This is not a failure of the medication. It is a predictable outcome of using a powerful tool without building the foundation that makes the results permanent. The women who keep the weight off after GLP-1 therapy are the ones who use the medication as a bridge, a tool that created the space and the metabolic improvement needed to build lasting habits, not as the destination itself. Number 8, know the right questions to ask your provider. If you are considering a GLP-1 medication or are already on one, here are the questions that will get you the best outcomes. What is my current muscle mass and how will we monitor it during therapy? What protein target should I be hitting daily? What resistance training protocol is appropriate for me alongside this medication? Will you monitor my B12 and magnesium levels? What is the plan for transitioning off the medication when the time comes? And what lifestyle changes need to be in place before we consider stopping? These questions signal to your provider that you understand the full picture, and they open the conversation that leads to genuinely sustainable outcomes. Here is what I want you to carry out of today. GLP-1 medications are real clinical tools with meaningful benefits for menopausal women dealing with insulin resistance, metabolic dysfunction, and significant weight to lose. They are also not complete protocols on their own. The women who get the best and most lasting results are the ones who pair their GLP-1 with high-protein nutrition, consistent resistance training, B12 and magnesium monitoring and supplementation, omega-3s and vitamin D for inflammation and metabolic support, and the lifestyle foundation that makes the results sustainable after the medication ends. GLP-1s open the door. What you build while the door is open determines whether you get to keep what you find on the other side. If you are navigating a GLP-1 protocol or trying to decide if one is right for you, I want you inside the Menofabulous community, where we have this conversation with real clinical depth and real coaching support every single day. Click the link below this video and join the Menofabulous community right now. This is too important to figure out alone. I'll see you in episode 3.